Now you are able to see the screen, right? You are able to see the screen, the whiteboard.
Yes, sir.
So now if you do a quick recap kind of a thing. So yesterday, what we have discussed was we have discussed this elastica. Okay. So this is a main derivation. So which shows, in the this curvature say. Okay. So if you include higher order terms, okay. So what is going to happen actually? Okay. So this is what we saw in our yesterday's class. Now, so now our conclusion was, if the rotations are very small, say, okay, then your Euler's, this itself is sufficient. That Euler's pi square EI by L square or whatever, this itself is sufficient actually. When theta is slopes are small, okay. So now I think we saw, I think up to 10 degree or 20 degree, there was not much change. So when theta was 20 degrees, say, okay, your P by PCR is more or less 1.015 kind of a thing. So you can use the Euler's formula, for 20, but when theta is equal to 60, say, when the rotations are very large, so your P by PCR becomes, you see, 1.152 kind of a thing. So the buckling load, it increases and your Euler's formula may not be fine actually, okay. But as far as our civil engineering say, okay, that steel and this thing, so you are buckling that P is equal to pi square EI by L square kind of a thing, maybe it's fine actually, okay, for small rotations kind of thing. But if you are working in, this biomechanics or some special type of structures, say, then, you have to, when rotations becomes very, very large, say, then, that Euler's formula may not be fine. Now, another thing, the interesting thing, what we said was this buckling equation. Okay, whatever we derived in our last class, the buckling equation. This is exactly similar to your pendulum equation. Okay, so this is one most, the important thing. So mathematically speaking, both of them are same actually. Okay, and the solution also is same. So we wrote in terms of this elliptic integrals of first kind. So this is one interesting observation, you see, which we did in our last class. Okay, so pendulum, buckling, both are same. So if you know the solution for buckling equation, say, you know the solution for pendulum itself actually. Okay, so it is, this way, that way, both are mathematically speaking, both of them are same. Only thing is here the derivative with respect to x, now their derivative with respect to time. So here we call as buckling load and other things. So there we took in terms of natural frequencies actually. Okay, so it is more or less, here you have, you see, the buckling load kind of a thing. So both of them are same. So this is also one very important thing which we saw in our last class. Okay, and now today, we will see this imperfect column. Okay, that's last class itself. I have already told you imperfections actually. Okay. So there are two ways are there. One is, the load itself is eccentric. Other one is the initially bent or crookedness actual. So this is what, we have said in the last class. So the column is, slightly bent. Already it is bent some, why not actually. Okay. So already bent. Okay. Some slight bending is already, there in this column itself. So now this type of things, you already see in practice. In practice, there is nothing like a perfect kind of a thing. So during erection of the steel columns, or during the construction, say, there may be some small, errors may be there. Your column may not be perfectly straight, because sometimes we do welding and, the joining, bolting, you follow, right? Because the splices and other things will be there. So what happens due to all these things, there will be some small crookedness will be there. And as already I told you, sometimes the crookedness may be like this, or your initial, sometimes the column may not be perfectly straight, something it may be like this also. Okay, in reality. Now, so now what we said was, so first thing is, how do we model this crookedness or whatever this deformed shape actual. So how do we model this one? How to do model actually, how okay, so how to model the crookedness itself, this initial bending or something like this. So now what we said was, you can use a Fourier series expansion actually. Okay, so you can see, you can write the your crookedness or whatever, say in terms of Fourier series. You solve for each Fourier series term, you get the solution, then you add up. So this is like a principle of superposition, like that we can do. So now how many Fourier series terms have to be included? It depends on your crookedness actually, how much the column is bent or something. So now I will show you only, we will discuss only the solution for one, then we can you can easily extend for this one. So now let us see this column. So you can see, so here the column is fully bent only on one side actually. Okay, so this means you can represent in terms of Fourier series. In the Fourier series term, the first one will be sine pi x. So it will have half sine pulse. Then you have like this, then you will have, you see, variety kinds of things are there. So now this crookedness, so this can be represented, you see, in terms of, so this y naught, say, as some v naught sine pi x by l, because there is no node, there is no zero crossing actual. Okay, for the sinusoidal wave you can write like this. Now if you are having a crookedness like this, you can also write this as sine 2 pi x by l, sine 3 pi x by l, like that also one can write, and you can solve for all this combination. So now let us see how to solve this case, then we will see for the other cases. Okay, and now, so if you write our equation of equilibrium, say, all of you know, so ei y double dash, this is followed, it is minus m or whatever thing we write like this. So if you substitute, say, so now your bending moment will be, so if you try to calculate bending moment, so you already, there is y naught is there. So you will be having p times y naught at each and every point in the column. Plus, due to buckling, say, you also will have this p times y also will come into picture actually. Okay. So the our equation becomes, you see, py minus p times, you see, y naught kind of a thing, it comes. Suppose if there was no crookedness or initial thing, so then this term will be, a zero kind of a thing we have. Okay. So if you write nicely, so y double dash, plus k square times y minus k square v naught, sine, you see, pi x by l. Okay. So where your k square is, p by ei kind of a thing. Okay, so this is how we write our differential equation. Now here the only problem is, now this is a ordinary differential equation, second order and degree 1, but the right hand side is not equal to 0 actually. So it is basically inhomogeneous, kind of, you see, the equation. So now if the equation is inhomogeneous, say, so you would have studied in mathematics, you see. So the final solution, we can write this as, some complementary function, then this particular, integral or something, you see, will come into picture. Now for this complementary function, say, so your yc is, you can write this as a sine, kx plus b cos, kx. So this is your complementary function. Okay. And now the particular integral, say, okay, so in our ordinary differential equations you would have studied actual. Okay, so if you want to write particular integral, so your particular integral depends on your right hand side. Okay, so now on your right hand side, what type of terms are there, say, based on that we decide our particular integral. So now on the right hand side we are having sine pi x by l. So you can write for this problem as, c sine, pi x by l plus d cos, pi x by l. So this is your particular integral. Now all of you know how to find out these constants in a ODE for a particular integral. So we all know that, you see, your yp should satisfy, this equation of equilibrium. Okay, the particular integral, this is a, should satisfy, you see, equations of equilibrium. Okay, so all of you know this one. So you have to find out C and D such that your yp should, you solve for C and D. Okay, so you substitute, say, so this yp in this equation actually. Okay, you substitute here, that is c sine pi x by l plus d cos pi x by l, then you solve for C and D. Okay, so now what happens is, you will get equations like this: c k square minus pi square by l square plus k square times you see your v naught. Okay, so this entire thing multiplied by the sine pi x by L plus d into is a k square minus pi square by L square into cos pi x by L is equal to 0. So this is how you get actual. So if you substitute your particular integral in equation of equilibrium, and then we are solving for C and D, and you do some algebra and you take all sine terms one side, cos terms one side, so you will get like this. Now your right hand side is 0, so now if it has to be 0, say the coefficients has to be 0 actually. Okay, so coefficients of your sine pi x by L and cos pi x by L, they have to be 0, has to be 0. So now what happens is, you see, so your d k square minus pi square by L square, this has to be equal to 0, and your c k square minus pi square by L square plus k square times v naught has to be equal to 0. So now the first one, it is straightforward. You can see k square cannot be equal to pi square by L square, so which means you followed it, d turns out to be 0. And now in the second case, okay, so you can write this expression as c is equal to you see v naught by pi square by k square L square minus 1 actually. So this is your c term. Okay, now, so this is how you see the C is obtained actually. So now, so D is 0. So now the final solution, say. So now the total solution, if you combine particular integral plus complementary solution, so you have, you see, so y is equal to, so a sine kx plus I say b cos kx plus, if I integrate new term, if I put alpha by 1 minus alpha v naught sine pi x by L. So where your alpha is, we just define as p by pi square ei by L square or p by pe kind of a thing, which is a Euler's load actually. Okay, so this is your Euler buckling load. Okay, so if you write like this, say, so this is your alpha. So only thing is, this is like a non-dimensional quantity alpha, instead of writing in terms of pi square, k square, L square, if you do these small adjustments here and there, say, the solution can be written using nicely in terms of this. So alpha is nothing but the ratio of, the load in a crooked column towards, you followed it, this Euler buckling load. Okay, and now, so now the constants are A, then B. Okay, so now we have to solve for this, the constants. Now, so now here we use our boundary conditions actually. So our boundary conditions are y is equal to 0 at x is equal to 0. That is, the deflection is 0 at the both the ends. So which means, if you substitute in this equation, say b turns out to be 0 and y is also 0 at x is equal to L. Okay, so which you will get, equation like this, a sine kl is equal to 0. Okay, so this equation we get. And now here there are two solutions are there. One is a can be 0 or sine kl is equal to 0 actually. Now what happens when sine kl is equal to 0? See what happens when sine kl is equal to 0? See now this is a crooked column actually. Okay, so now after doing all these things, if we say sine kl is equal to 0, so which means you are going back once again to, see, after doing all the calculations, we are saying that a sine kl is equal to 0. Now two options are there. One is a can be 0 or sine kl can be 0. If you say that sine kl is equal to 0, say, what does it mean? It sine kl is equal to 0 means, once again you will get p as pi square ei by L square itself actually, which is for a perfect column kind of a thing. Okay, now here the problem what we are trying to do is, we are trying to find out whether there are some other solutions are possible, you followed, right, for this initial bent column actually. So now one solution is pi square ei by L square, that is perfectly fine actually. Okay, so we are looking for solutions other than pi square ei by L square which can buckle our column itself. Okay, so now for that purpose, you see, so if this is, if you don't take this quantity, say, okay, so which means, we take A is equal to 0, because sine KL is equal to 0. This is like, for a perfect column. So now we are looking for solutions, so we are looking for solutions other than this. Looking for solutions, okay, other than sine KL is equal to 0. So we ignore this, and because of this we force A has to be equal to 0. So which means, you will get an expression like this. So now your Y total say, okay. So A is 0, B is 0. So now what happens here? So both of them are 0. So you will be left with only alpha by 1 minus alpha V naught into, you followed, right? The sine kx by L we have. So this becomes, you see, alpha by 1 minus alpha. So V naught sine, you see, pi x by L. So this is our solution actually. So now you see we try to find out the mid deflection. Okay, that is delta. That is at x is equal to, you see, L by 2 kind of a thing. So which we get as, so when you substitute x is equal to L by 2, so L by 2 comes here, L gets cancelled. So sine pi by 2, all of you know that sine pi by 2 is, the 1 itself kind of a thing you have. So you can write this as V naught into alpha into 1 minus alpha, or if you expand, say, okay, alpha 1 minus, you see, P by, you see, PE kind of a thing. So this is our mid-height deflection actually, the mid deflection for this simply supported beam actually. Okay. So now if you try to plot this quantity, say, it looks like this. Okay. So this is your load versus deflection. This is a normalized, and this is your mid-height deflection. You followed. So now what happens at, when P is equal to 0, say, at that initial place actually, okay, so there is no load or, which is acting on your column. So now what happens when P tends to 0, if you see this expression carefully, say, so when P is 0, what happens, your solution will be V naught. That means your initial crookedness actual. What is your the mid height, okay. So that is how it goes. So now this graph, say, and now if you mark this line also, this is 1, okay. So where your P is exactly same as P, that is a pi square A by L square. That's Euler's, the buckling load kind of a thing. So now if you try to plot this graph, say, so this function, okay, for various values of P by PE, so keep on increasing. Now when P is equal to PE, what happens in this expression? So when P is equal to PE, so P by PE becomes 1. So V naught by 1 minus 1 becomes, you see, infinity kind of a thing. So deflection goes towards infinity. So now and here when P is equal to 0, say, okay, so you will have like this. So the behavior will be, you see, something like this. So this small portion is nothing but V naught, that's your initial crookedness kind of a thing. So it goes like this. And if you try to plot, say, so let us say this is your initial crookedness is, some 0.1 or something. As crookedness increases actually, okay, so it quickly goes towards, you followed, right, some 0.3 or something, say, okay. So now this the curves you see looks something like this, okay. So now what does it tells you now? Now what does it tells you? So when you look at this graph, say, okay, so what does it tells us? See, now if the column is already bent actually, okay, so when the column is already bent, already bending stresses are there inside our column itself. So now what is how this column is behaving when P is equal to PE, anyway it goes towards infinity. But this already bent column, say, what is happening is already there is some amount of bending which is already there in the column. So due to this, what happens is as you keep on increasing the load. Hello,
The Euler's formula is underestimated.
which one? The Euler's formula is? Please tell me.
Like
Hmm.
this is not taking the, like it is showing the higher value. The PE is higher, but actually it's not reaching that thing.
Yes, yes, yes. That is one. There is one more important thing. What other things you can make out from this? So that is perfectly fine. What you have told is, that is perfectly fine, your observation. But there is one more important thing here. It is, in this graph actually. Okay, that is, now see one more important thing is generally what do you mean by critical load? See this critical load say. So now for a perfect column, okay. So when the column is perfect, okay, there is no imperfections or something. The load versus deflection diagram, if you draw say, this is the load versus deflection diagram for a perfect column. So P versus mid height deflection. Okay. So now what is happening over here? How we defined our critical buckling load? See here we said in the first class itself we have said that the critical buckling load is nothing but you have stable, unstable equilibrium or something. So now what happens for a perfect column? When you keep on increasing the load, say the column will remain perfectly straight. But when P crosses PCR at that junction, say when P is equal to PE kind of a thing, your column will be in, you see, a neutral equilibrium actually. You followed, the column will be in neutral equilibrium kind of a thing. So it can go this way, some slight thing, automatically deflection goes towards, suddenly you see the infinity kind of a thing. Now when there are imperfections, say the load versus deflection diagram is something like this actually. Okay. So now here what do you mean by critical buckling load? How do you estimate from this graph? What is the critical buckling load for imperfect column? Say for a perfect column, we say P, that is a pi square A by L square. That, and what is the physical meaning of pi square A by L square? So when P is equal to pi square A by L square, your column is in neutral equilibrium. That's what you see we have defined previously. Now for imperfect column, say, what do you mean by critical buckling load? Like you told, right? The critical Euler's, you are underestimating the thing. That is perfectly fine. So if it is underestimating, so what is exact? How do you calculate this critical buckling load? See, tell us. See, how do you calculate critical buckling load for imperfect column? I have shown you load versus deflection diagram. Now, which point you will take as critical buckling load?
We limit the deflection and take the P value.
No, where? How you will limit the deflection?
I think some standard.
No, you forget about. I told this is not a design course. Okay, don't worry. Just as analysis, you are the load versus deflection diagram. If you plot, it is going somewhere like this. Okay. Now, where you will limit the deflection, or what is your definition of the critical buckling load? For a perfect column, we had a nice mathematical definition that it has to be neutral equilibrium. Then we take it as a whatever buckling load. Now, for imperfect, what is the definition of this buckling load? You told we have to limit at some place, but how you are going to find out mathematically? So you would have done previously, you followed, right, other this one. So how do you define that one? So you can see that sudden change in deflection actually, or sudden rate of change, you can say. Sorry. So if you see this rate of increase or whatever, a rate of change, of deflection. See what happens here is when you keep on increasing load, initially deflection will be very, very small. After some point, say, automatically what happens is, the deflection goes, slight increase in the load also will create large deflection actually. You followed, right? So that it is something like the load, at which your deflection becomes, you see, unbounded kind of a thing. So here the definition of Euler buckling load itself becomes, the most important thing. So definition itself, you see, it changes now. So now you would have done in our structural engineering lab, right? The single angle, the buckling of a single angle, and I think what is it? The double angle sections. Some of you have done the course, our lab, structural engineering lab.
Yes.
So now how did you find out for single angle and double angle? You would have done, right, in the class, in our laboratory class. See there deflection will not go to infinity. You follow, right, mid height, because it is in practice. So now you never get load versus deflection diagram like a perfect column itself in reality. So how did you calculate Euler buckling load? You remember when you keep on increasing the load initially, when you increment the load by 1 unit, say, your deflection also increases maybe by 2 units. But as you keep on increasing the load, at some point, when you increment the deflection by 1 unit, your deflection becomes, you see, 10 times or 15 times, 16 times it goes actually. You follow? So that time, you see, you will stop the experiment and say that this itself is our buckling load actually. Okay. So now what is the definition of now the buckling load for imperfect column? It is not neutral equilibrium. It is not stable or unstable kind of a thing. So it is basically the load at which your deflection becomes unbounded kind of a thing. That is, if you change the deflection by 1%, your deflection should change by, you followed, right, some 30% or 40% kind of a thing, which is unbounded kind of a thing. So that is the definition of, you see, the Euler buckling load actually, okay, for imperfect columns. Or even in reality also, you do like this itself. Mathematically speaking, mathematical thing is perfect column means like this. That is a neutral equilibrium. But now in reality, it never happens. So it is something like rate of, the deflection becomes unbounded kind of a thing. That is how we take this buckling load. Okay. So this is a very important observation, which you have to make out, from this imperfect columns. Okay. So now suppose, if you are having imperfections like this, now how do you solve this type of a problem? So now, as already I told you, you have to write in Taylor series. Okay. So this is having one thing, say. So you can write your y naught as, some v naught sine 2 pi x by L. Okay. And you do all the calculations actually. You followed all the calculations you can do on this one. But the only interesting thing is how here the column buckles. See, in the first case, we have taken only one term, the first term in your Fourier series. So now in this case, what happens is, your columns, the buckling. So when it goes to buckling or the bending, if you try to observe in the laboratory, the column, the mode will be, you see, something like this, the buckling mode shape. Now for already, suppose if the column is like this, so the initial crookedness is something like this, say. Then, because the Fourier series terms are higher order, the buckling mode also changes. This is the most, the important thing. With this one. So now suppose if the initial crookedness is, something like this, then, the buckling modes also may change. And of course, you see the buckling load also may increase actually, second mode or third mode or fourth mode. So, pi square EI by L square is the first buckling mode actually. Okay. The second one will be, the higher one will come into N square, pi square EI by L square kind of a thing. You substitute N is equal to 2 and you can calculate, you see, for all these shapes. So in reality, if the crookedness is something complicated, say something like this, so what you can do is this crookedness can be Fourier series expansion. You calculate for all those things, you sum up, and then you see you can get the actual. So you can get the exact load, you see, by summing up, all these terms. Okay. So this is how we calculate for the crooked columns. Okay. And now another extension for this is, the eccentric load. This is also very important thing. Okay. These also exactly same as this one, but not much things are there. So already all of, so if you are having a column, so when the load is not applied at here, so the load is applied with some small eccentricity. So this also happens in, practice. Okay. So accidental eccentricity we say. See the connection between beams and joints you followed, right? The load, comes through beams or something. Because of these connections, you can have some, the eccentricities, accidental eccentricities which come here. So then, you will have this type of problem. Okay. So this is also a best example for imperfection. So now when you're undergraduate, say already, it is available in the textbooks. We call this as, secant formula. Some of you may be remembering. Secant formula also we use. So it is straightforward. Okay. So now the equation of equilibrium will be EI y double dash. Of course, you have P times Y will be there, but because of this eccentricity, so you have to add, both of these things. So the equation of equilibrium becomes like this. So this is your equation of equilibrium. It's very straightforward. You see, you can draw. So now I see. So if you write nicely, so y double dash plus k square y say is, minus k square into E, where k square is, you see, P by EI kind of a thing. Okay. So now here also, you see, you try to derive. So now this is also inhomogeneous or ordinary differential equation. So you are having right hand side. Okay. So which is not equal to 0. So now which means, you see, you will have a complementary function plus particular integral will come. So yc plus, yp kind of a thing. Anyway, the complementary function will be same as for the previous problem, a sine kx plus b cos kx. And your particular integral, say, as already I told you, so this depends on your right hand side. Like previous case, it was sine. So we wrote as sine pi x and cos pi x by L. Now here we are having a constant kind of a thing, E. So now for this, you can see in any mathematics textbooks, we take this particular integral, as minus E itself. Okay. And now you have to find out the constants. So you use our boundary conditions itself. So now the boundary condition is, you see, y is equal to 0 at x is equal to, 0 deflection. So which means, if you substitute, say, b turns out to be E and y is equal to 0 at x is equal to L. Okay. So which means, you solve the A, it turns out to be E into 1 minus cos KL by, you see, sine KL. Okay. And now, so this is how we get, these are the terms. Okay. So if you can write also, so y is equal to, E times, cos kx plus 1 minus cos KL by sine KL into sine kx minus 1. So this is the total deflection actually for a column subjected to a load which has some eccentricity. Okay. So now we are interested in finding, you see, the mid height deflection, because that is a place where the deflection is very high. So that is at x is equal to L by 2. So sorry. So at x is equal to L by 2. So y is equal to delta actually. So this is what we are interested. So now you substitute x is equal to L by 2 in this expression. So you have E cos KL by 2 plus 1 minus cos KL by sine KL and sine KL by 2 minus 1. Okay. So now you use our trigonometric identities, that is the cos KL is equal to 1 minus 2 sine square KL by 2. All of you know these things. Okay. So sine KL is equal to 2 sine KL by 2 and cos KL by 2. So substitute and then do some algebra, say. Okay. So delta becomes E into, you see, secant KL by 2 minus 1. Or if you want to write in terms of some normalized buckling loads, say, you can also write this as a secant pi by 2 root of P by PE, okay, minus 1. So where PE is your Euler's buckling load. This is just like a non-dimensional quantity by L square. Okay. So this is a expression for deflection actually. Okay. So now here also, how to calculate buckling load? You cannot, there is no concept of neutral equilibrium or anything like that for imperfect column. Okay. So you have to do only by load versus deflection. So P by PE. You followed, right? Now this is a secant curve. Okay. So now if it is a perfect column, say, so this is your load deflection diagram. Okay. So this is 1, that is P is equal to PE kind of a thing. And now you have to plot this curve actually. Okay. So for various values of loads. So when P is equal to 0, say, then you have this secant of 0, this minus 1 and other things will come. So your deflection will be, you see, 0 kind of a thing you have. And now, as you keep on increasing the load, say, so this becomes, you see, something like this. Okay. And now if the eccentricity is very high, say, suppose if this is for 0.1, the eccentricity increases. Okay. So then what happens is, it goes something like this, very, very fast it approaches. Okay. So this is, let us say, eccentricity, you see, 0.3 kind of a thing. And now here, how do we calculate buckling load? Now, just now I told you, right? How do you calculate buckling load here for this case also? There is no concept of neutral equilibrium. Okay. Load versus deflection diagram is. So now you have to find out the load at which deflection suddenly, like small increment in load will give you large deflection actually. So that you take it as a buckling load kind of a thing. Okay. So when there is imperfection, say, this is how we have to calculate, this buckling load. Okay. Now, so to summarize, we can make some nice, the observations here. Okay. So we can make these observations. Now, so these are the observations from imperfect columns, both from crookedness and then imperfect columns. Okay, so this is a very important thing. You can see what are the summary kind of a thing. Okay, so now the most important thing is in both the cases, if it is initially bent or if it is eccentric column itself. So we have observed that Euler's buckling load is the maximum actually. So they cannot exceed Euler's buckling load. So Euler's load is something like you followed, right? Euler's load is the best approximation. It is a good approximation of the maximum load. approximation of the maximum for the maximum load. Okay, for maximum load for both imperfect and eccentric load. Okay, so for both the cases it is a very this one. And now the definition of critical load, say. This is the most important thing you follow, right? Critical load. Now suppose if a column is a perfect column, okay, no imperfections, no eccentricities. So the definition of critical buckling load is the load at which neutral equilibrium is possible. Okay. So this is a definition of a critical load for a perfect column. Now for imperfect columns, say, or eccentric also, or eccentric kind of a thing. Yeah. So the definition is, you followed it, the load at which. Okay. So deformation of a imperfect system, okay, of imperfect column, increases, without bound. So this is the most important observation which you can make from, you see, our ongoing, the whatever the derivation. So for a perfect column, critical load means the load at which neutral equilibrium is possible. If it is imperfect or eccentric load, the load at which deformation, increases without bound. That means, a small initial deformation you give, and the deflection increases, so many times, say, then, that is what we take it as eccentric, this, critical buckling load. Okay, so now what we are interested is small initial. So now this also gives you a nice a definition of critical load. See, the previously for a perfect column, neutral equilibrium or something. Now we can also define the critical buckling load or Euler buckling load. That means if you are having a perfect system, say, okay, even for a perfect column also. So if you are having a perfect system, say, if we want to derive the critical buckling load, okay, so one is mathematically neutral equilibrium we are checking. What if we are doing is, you give a small initial deformation. You follow? So you just give a small perturbation, or you give some small difference kind of a thing, and you can find out the load at which deformation becomes, at which deformation becomes unbounded. You followed. So this also we can define the critical buckling load. You followed, right? So this is you followed, right? So this is a definition of, you see, the critical buckling load. So Euler's buckling, the critical buckling load. So two definitions we can give. One is mathematically neutral equilibrium is possible, or if you are having a perfect system, say, you give a small deformation, okay, and then you verify its deflection. So now you can find out the load at which the deformation becomes, say, unbounded kind of a thing. So this definition also we can give for the critical buckling load. Okay, so now the critical buckling load, you can see there are two definitions are there. One is this definition, and you can use, you see, this definition also for this one. Okay, so now, but only thing is, if you want to use this definition, say, to find out this one, if it is imperfect column, there is no need to give any deformation actually. Okay, already, it has some initial you followed, right? Crookedness, or load eccentricity, you followed, right? Already it is there. The deformation is already there actually embedded here. Suppose if you're having a perfect column, say, so how to do this? So you have to give some disturbance. So you disturb it, okay? So some small, you do it, and then you just check whether it becomes unbounded or not. So that way also you can derive this Euler's buckling load. So these are the three very, very important observations which you have made. So the first thing is, Euler's load is a very good approximation for the upper bound. So that is a maximum bound kind of a thing you have for imperfect and eccentric loading. Now critical load, the definition is for perfect column. Until now we were defining as load at which neutral equilibrium is possible. But from imperfect and eccentric loading, we have observed that how to calculate buckling load is, the load at which deformation increases without bound. So this is like a new definition we have got from by studying this imperfect and eccentric column. So now based on this, we have given a new definition. So if you are having a perfect system or imperfect system, if we give a small initial deformation, say, and you can find out the load at which deformation becomes unbounded. So this is a, the definition of the Euler's buckling load. So for imperfect column, no need to give any deformation. Already it has some deformation. So automatically you can calculate by whatever this one. If you are having a perfect column, say, because there is no internal, there is no deformation or anything like that, you give us some small perturbation actually, and then check whether the the deflection goes towards unbounded kind of a thing or not. You can check also. So this is the most important thing. Now for buckling load, we have now got two definitions actually. Okay, one is the original one. Now this we got from our this crookedness and then this eccentricities. Okay. So if you have any questions, we will answer. Any clarifications, please ask me. Yeah. So is it clear? See, now the definitions are clear for the buckling load. So if people have understood them. No, all of you are silent. So what does it tells me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. So now,
Yes, sir.
So this is
Yes,
Varun,
sir.
sir.
Please.
So in case of a perfect column, by providing an initial disturbance, are we not reducing the accuracy of the exact value?
No.
If we don't provide the initial perturbation, we'll get an exact value. But by
No.
providing a distortion, it may not give the exact value.
No. That is, I think you are thinking from experiment side of it. This is a mathematical way, you followed, right? So it is like calculus of variation. See, why we are discussing, why we came to this one was, see, this energy principles, right? See, in energy principles, virtual work, you followed virtual displacement. How do we calculate that equation of equilibrium? See, if you want to write equation of equilibrium for any system, say two ways are there. One is you draw the free body diagram, you find out all the forces, sigma fx 0, sigma fy 0, and you get the equation of equilibrium actual. Okay. Now, other way of doing this is what? So what we do is we give some small virtual deformations or virtual this one. So we write virtual work principle, and based on energy also you can derive the load actually. You understand? So now for a perfect column, say, one way is that the force method or something, free body diagram is neutral equilibrium. What's the other way? So this gives you a interesting thing that you can give a small virtual thing kind of a thing, and then you can calculate the buckling load also. So this why we discussed this was because you can get a feeling. The definition is you can go towards energy principles itself. That is the way. Not that you go initially you start the the experiment kind of a thing. It's a mathematical we are doing. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
No. So this paves for energy methods so that they can be used for calculating the buckling loads. Okay, that is the only thing. Okay. See now if that is clear, so we go towards the next thing. That is variety boundary conditions. So as already we told, fixed boundary. Suppose in a multi-story building, say, now how do you calculate? See, you are having the columns like this. Okay, in a multi-story building. Now I want to calculate buckling load for this column. Now how to calculate? Or this column actually. For this portion I want to find out, or maybe this column, this portion I want to find out the buckling load. So the only problem what you have is equation of equilibrium remains same, everything fine. But the problem is, the boundary conditions actually. This is a connection between a joint. This is like a joint between a beam and a column. So you can have variety. There may be 3 beams passing or something like that. You followed, right? So how to calculate the buckling load for these type of cases actually? Where do you have how to write this type of boundary conditions? So they are neither fixed they are neither hinged also, or they are something like you followed. No, it depends. If the beam is very stiff beam, say column, like a strong column, weak column, strong beam, where EI of this is proportional or equal, or so many issues will be there. Now how do we calculate these type of things? So for that's very easy. So you can see, like for example, say you can easily do in this format. So you have this column, say, okay. So the model is like this. I do like this. So you give a rotational spring. Okay. Then we also give translational spring. You follow? So this is a rotational thing. So we do just like this. Okay. So this is our column. You follow? So now when rotational stiffness, suppose if this is a beta, say, okay, and this is some alpha rotational spring, okay, so alpha T, and then you follow, right? So this is a bottom, this is a bottom, and alpha B. So T indicates top, and B indicates, you see, the bottom. This end, okay. So now you follow, right? Suppose if alpha T, then alpha B, then your beta T, and then beta B, say. If all of them are infinity, what happens? What type of boundary condition it is? See, rotational spring. Fixed actually. Excellent. Okay. Now suppose if you take beta T and beta B, say, as infinity, but alpha T, alpha B, say, okay, as 0, what type of boundary condition it is? Hinged actually. Okay. So now you can play, suppose if alpha T is 0.5, then beta T is 0.5. It means it is neither hinged, neither this. You can do, suppose if alpha T is 0, beta T is also 0. So what does it indicate? See, alpha T, beta T, say, these are 0, whereas alpha B, then beta B, say, this is also 0. So what does it tell you? Both are 0.
It's not support.
What does it mean? That means free beam, free column kind of a thing. You followed, right? Of course, we don't have anything like free column, but where do you see free columns? Of course, civil engineering, there is nothing called as a free. Civil engineering means it is a mandate. You have to provide a support. Where this you have to study these type of problems free, and it is subjected to buckling. Where? No, in which discipline you see free? No supports.
Aircrafts.
Temperature
Fantastic.
variations.
Okay, this is also very good. But temperature also, see the support conditions we are talking, not this one. I think one person told aircraft.
Yeah,
Fantastic.
aircrafts.
Not only aircraft. See, the buckling is most important not for the aircraft, but it is very important for rockets actually. Okay, no, that Space Dragon, Gigan, and all those rockets are going to moon and something like that. So what happens when a spacecraft, this rocket or something is going? There will be compression forces will be there. Okay, so they have to calculate the buckling loads for free also. You follow? So free, all conditions are required. Now, if it is not 0, if it is not infinity, something else says. So this is like a generalized case what I am writing here. You can, all kinds of things you can do actually. Okay. So now the boundary conditions will be, you see. So the boundary conditions, you can write easily EI y double dash at 0, that is at the bottom end. Okay. Or whatever this one. So alpha B y dash 0. So this is your movement equation. So now here what we say is, so bending moment at this place, say, bending moment is controlled by this rotational spring. So rotations alpha into y dash actually. Okay. So this gives you the the moment the moment condition, the bending moment, the boundary condition in terms of, you see, the boundary this one. And now similarly say that translational spring is related to shear force actually. Okay. So we write like this. So EI y triple dash, okay, of 0 plus P times y dash of 0 is beta B, okay, of y of 0. So this is a shear force. So this is at the bottom end. Now at the top end, say, same equation goes y double dash of 0 minus alpha T. Oh, sorry, L. This is L. No. alpha E dash L is equal to 0, and then EI Y triple dash is equal. No. So EIY double dash, sorry, triple dash of EL plus P times Y dash at L is equal to, you followed, right? Beta B Y of is 0 kind of a thing you have. So beta T. No, beta T is equal of 0. So these are how the issue, the equations of equilibrium issue, they are different now. So now for variety cases, if you want to do, so these things will enter your calculations. Alpha B's, beta B's, you followed it. So your solution depends on these terms actually. So if you solve for this case, is like a more generalized case, you can calculate for any problem, any boundary condition you followed it. The column can be anywhere inside the structure. It can be free. It can be whatever you followed, right? So you can solve the equation, substitute these boundary conditions. It's like a more generalized kind of a case, you will get for this type of conditions actually. Okay. So anyway, so I will stop here. So the next class, we will continue our discussion. That is, I think, on Monday. Okay. So is it fine? So if you have any doubts, you can ask, or you can ask in WhatsApp or whatever, in the class also, it will be fine. Okay.
Sir, all these equations we saw were time independent, right?
Yes, we have not yet come to the time.
Okay, sir.
That I told, right? The time will come in our last set of lectures, dynamic stability. Okay. So when time comes into picture, then the whole thing changes actually. Okay. So you will have a different type of a climax. Okay. So when time comes, say resonance comes. Resonance comes means in dynamic stability, you have a new resonance come, that is a parametric resonance, flutter. It's a different kind of a things. Then the equation becomes, slightly partial differential, then, complexity comes. So this we will see after in the end. Okay. Dynamic stability. Is it fine?
Okay, sir.
Okay then. Okay. I think already you may be late for some other class maybe.